Marcus, he's 26, makes lattes at a coffee shop in Portland, asked me a question last week that I haven't stopped thinking about. Why do rich people seem so relaxed? I laughed at first, then I realized he wasn't joking. Marcus works 50 hours a week. He's got a side gig doing graphic design. He's always hustling, always moving. And he genuinely couldn't understand why the customers who tip him $20 on a $5 coffee seem to have endless time. Here's the thing. Marcus had stumbled onto the most important question in all of investing, and he didn't even know it. I spent 8 years making $85,000 a year as a consultant and feeling broke every single month. I was the guy buying $4,000 worth of stocks and then selling them 2 weeks later to pay rent. I thought I understood investing because I could read financial statements and calculate P/E ratios. I was completely backwards. The rich people Marcus was watching, they weren't relaxed because they were rich. They were rich because they'd learned to be relaxed. About money, about time, about the future. Most people think investment philosophy is about stock picking, growth versus value, technical analysis versus fundamental analysis, active versus passive management. That's not philosophy, that's tactics. Real investment philosophy starts with one question. Are you building a machine that works without you, or are you the machine? I was the machine. Every dollar I made required my time, my energy, my presence. I stop working, the money stops coming. Marcus was the machine too. So are 73% of Americans, according to the Federal Reserve's latest data on wealth distribution. But here's where Marcus surprised me. 2 months ago, he started doing something I wish I'd figured out at 26. Every single tip he gets, and he gets about $180 a week in tips, goes straight into buying fractional shares of apartment building REITs. Not sexy, not complicated, just apartment buildings, owned by him, rented by other people. I figure people always need places to live, he told me, and I'm tired of being the one paying rent to someone else. Marcus is 26 years old, and he's already grasped something that took me until I was 35 to understand. Capital isn't money. Capital is other people's demand for what you own. When Marcus owns a piece of an apartment building, he owns a slice of something people need every month. When I was buying and selling individual stocks based on earnings reports, I was just gambling on price movements. Think about that for a second. The coffee shop where Marcus works pays him $18 an hour to make drinks. But Marcus also owns tiny pieces of buildings where people pay $1,800 a month to live. Which one of those relationships is working for Marcus and which one is Marcus working for? Now, most people hear this and immediately think, but I don't have enough money to buy real estate. That's primal brain thinking. That's the scarcity mindset that keeps you trapped. Marcus doesn't buy buildings, he buys shares of companies that own buildings for $25 at a time, every week. By the end of this year, he'll own about $2,300 worth of apartment buildings across 15 different cities. Those buildings will pay him roughly $78 this year in dividends. That's $78 he gets for doing absolutely nothing. And here's the part that blew my mind. Marcus calculated that if he keeps this up for 12 years, just $180 a week, just his tip money, he'll be getting about $400 a month in passive income. Forever. $400 a month covers his food, which means in 12 years, Marcus never has to worry about grocery money again. While his co-workers are still trading time for money, Marcus will have grocery money whether he shows up to work or not. That's freedom money. That's what rich people understand that broke people don't. You don't get rich by earning more money. You get rich by owning things that earn money without you. I know what you're thinking. $180 a week sounds like a lot when you're barely covering bills. I get it. When I was 28, I couldn't imagine setting aside $50 a month, let alone $180 a week. But here's what I learned the hard way. The month I finally started paying myself first, before rent, before groceries, before anything, was the month everything changed. I set up an automatic transfer of $200 every payday into a brokerage account, even when it meant eating ramen for a week, especially then. Because here's what nobody tells you about investment philosophy. It's not really about investments. It's about identity. Are you someone who gets paid or someone who gets paid by what they own? The barista mindset says, I'll invest when I have extra money. The owner mindset says, I'll find a way to make ends meet after I pay myself first. Same person, same income. Completely different philosophy, completely different outcome. Marcus figured this out by watching his customers. The ones who seemed relaxed weren't necessarily earning more money. They were earning money differently. They owned pieces of businesses, they owned pieces of buildings, they owned pieces of farms and factories and shipping companies, and all of those pieces were working 24 hours a day, generating tiny streams of income. While Marcus was working 50 hours a week for his money, their money was working 8,160 hours a year for them. That's 175 times more leverage. And it started with the same $180 a week that Marcus was spending on weekend drinks and impulse purchases. Look, I'm not saying everyone should buy Rayites. Rayites are just Marcus's version. The philosophy works with index funds, dividend stocks, even starting a small business. The point is ownership. The point is building something that works without you. Most investment advice focuses on returns. Should you expect 7% or 10% annually? Should you buy this stock or that stock? Wrong questions. The right question is, what can you own that people will always need? Marcus owns apartments because people always need shelter. You might own pieces of utilities because people always need electricity, or food companies because people always need to eat, or banks because people always need to borrow money. The specific investment matters less than the philosophy behind it. Now, if you're someone who gets a regular paycheck but feels like you're running on a financial treadmill, earning money but never getting ahead, this is for you. The philosophy shift is simple, but it's not easy. Every time money hits your account, before you pay a single bill, you move money to buy something that earns money without you. Start with $50. Start with $25. Start with whatever keeps you from making excuses. Then watch what happens to your brain over the next 6 months. You stop thinking like someone who trades time for money. You start thinking like someone who builds systems that generate money. You stop asking, how can I earn more? You start asking, what can I own that other people need? That's the philosophy that made Marcus richer than me, even though I earn 4 times what he does. Tonight, before you go to bed, set up that automatic transfer. Pick an amount that scares you just a little bit. That's how you know it's enough to change your philosophy. The machine starts working the moment you stop being the machine.